From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, where I've managed to connect a little bit with nature this week and had a really lovely visit to Kew Gardens, where there is the most incredible field of brightly coloured tulips, which is my absolute favourite flower. Today I'm tapping into my Australian heritage, and Jim, you'll appreciate this. I've had an invitation to the Australian High Commission to a reception on what is Anzac Day over here. It's probably already been with you in Australia, but lots of memorials and lots of official things going on, even in London over here, to mark Anzac Day.
Well, Aussies love a holiday, and today is one of those that has a lot of nostalgia, reminiscence attached to it. It's a fairly sobering day when you think about all those people who died in the First and the Second World War in particular. But most of the major cities have a march that goes 3 or 4 hours with all the oldsters, as it were, taking part, and it's a special day. It's probably become the special day in Australia because it's a celebration, as it were, remembrance for everyone. Anyway, most of the time, these days go fairly quietly, but every now and then, a little doggy gets up and barks.
And that's Rusty for anyone watching on YouTube.
Well, for the moment, he's keeping his peace, isn't he? I'm Charu Sharma for Akashvani, quite miraculously back home for a change in Bangalore. Isn't it great to be back home? But only for this week. I'm afraid I'll be somewhere else next week. Of course, India's in the throes of its general elections. And despite that, of course, the IPL continues for the very first time to be held in India. Tomorrow is voting day in Bangalore. And as you know, they put a little bit of ink on one of our forefingers. So I hope to show that to you as a sign of having voted the next time we do Stumped. It takes a bit of time to go away. But it's still very hot in Bangalore. We're just a few days away from all those pre-monsoon storms or showers, but just great to be back home.
Good to see you in your home environment, Charu, for once. Now, on this week's show, we're going to be hearing from the Aussie in charge of preparing World Cup pitches in America for, amongst other matches, India versus Pakistan. But first, as we continue to ramp up our coverage to the Men's T20 World Cup that's happening in the USA and the Caribbean in June, it seems that India may have a potential headache. Who do they choose as their wicketkeeper for the tournament? So that's what we'll throw around for the first part of the show. Now, Rishabh Pant was India's keeper at the last T20 World Cup when India were knocked out by England in the semi-final. And whilst he has made a tremendous comeback at the Indian Premier League, he hasn't played for India since that awful car accident he had in December 2022. However, the BCCI have said that they will select him if he's fit. But there are many other options, aren't there, Charu? IPL keepers at the moment, a backup is helpful as well in a squad. So your selector, Charu, let me come to you first. Who else are you considering? And I'll start by perhaps saying amongst the leading contenders that Sanju Samson has scored more runs, until Rishabh Pant 88, of course, just the other night. But Sanju Samson's right up there in terms of the run scoring, and he's got a healthy strike rate and a good number of dismissals as well.
What a ridiculous headache to have. And I've been saying for years and years, for decades, that I don't mind doing anything in the world of sport except to be a selector in any sport, anywhere, anytime, or, of course, an umpire, an official of that nature, because you can never, ever get it absolutely right. So, yes, I feel for the selectors, and you probably mentioned the number one name right at the top. Now, I thought he was being fast-tracked into the IPL because he did go through a horrendous set of injuries, and, well, thankfully, he seems to be not only recovered, but doing really well in the IPL, and that has to be a measure of the selection of the T20 squad. So, yeah, Rishabh Pant is probably right on top there. But I would also like to present the candidature of Ishan Kishan, who's been a bit of an enfant terrible of the Indian cricket team because he ran away for a while, didn't play the domestic cricket circuit, and his contract was taken away. Well, he's done rather well in the IPL. A slow start and then eventually doing rather well with the bat. So he's a legitimate keeper. I think he will, if they allow him a top order slot, certainly be in contention. But apart from that, I don't see Dinesh Karthik there because, after all, that would be a bit of a regressive step. He's 39. Not that age is a problem, but, there's so many other youngsters. You've got to blood them in the T20 at the highest level. Also, Rahul is a regular bat. I think he will probably make the team as the potential second keeper in case the number one keeper is injured. So they're not going to take two keepers, but they'll have one legitimate keeper, and say somebody like Rishabh Pant, and the other could be Rahul as a batsman who can keep in case, God forbid, there's an injury. But that does mean that it's troubled times for people like Ishan Kishan. And the one I really feel, once again, a little sorry for, because he does seem to have this huge legion of fans, is Sanju Samson.
So you're discounting him.
Well,
he's down the bottom of your list.
Yeah, no, he's not at the bottom. It's just that, you have space for only one legitimate keeper. And this is Sanju Samson's last probable opportunity of getting into the Indian T20 team. And thereafter, I think he'll start being considered, or somebody will start considering him to be too old. So if Sanju Samson can somehow sneak ahead of Pant, this is his only opportunity. But otherwise, if Pant continues to do well in the T20 and he stays reasonably fit, I'm afraid he's going to get the nod. And you'll have a batting keeper, more like a Rahul. I hesitate to say an occasional keeper, but they're like Rahul Dravid, for instance, did a lot of keeping duty for India, but he wasn't quite the official keeper in the country. So that might be KL Rahul, with Pant heading the list. Sanju Samson, last resort, last chance, and Ishan Kishan could be the surprise factor here.
Jim, yes, the selectors look at runs scored, dismissals. In glove work often it tends to be almost the last thing we talk about, the actual skills behind the stumps of the keeper. But batting position has got to be important, isn't it? Because Charu's mentioning Rishabh Pant, if he's the top pick, well, he's a middle order bat. But KL Rahul opens. Ishan Kishan's been opening for Mumbai Indians as well. So it kind of depends on who else is picked in the team, doesn't it? KL Rahul was the opener at the last T20 World Cup, but somebody like Jaiswal is going to be putting up a big bid to potentially open alongside Rohit Sharma. So it's going to be a bit of a see how that whole jigsaw fits together, rather than just outright, well, here's our keeper. You've got to look at also where they bat.
I think if Pant's anywhere near fit and he's got the mobility and whatever to be a gloveman, and he was a very adequate gloveman before, I mean, it's a brain dead argument, in my opinion. He's only playing, T20 cricket. Can't be too exhausted and play, the reserve. No. If Pant's fit, he plays. End of section, as far as I'm concerned. But I tend to be a bit like that, yeah.
So the T20 World Cup is just around the corner, but it won't just be the players who'll feel nervous about it getting all underway. Imagine being the person responsible for creating the pitch from scratch that will be used for India versus Pakistan, the most high-octane match there is, expected to be watched by billions. Now imagine the pressure of transporting that pitch and keeping it in pristine condition on a 2,000-kilometre road trip from Florida to New York. Well, the process of creating brand new pitches for the modular stadium in Eisenhower Park, east of Manhattan, started some 17,000 kilometres away in Adelaide, South Australia. Damien Hoff is head curator at the famous Adelaide Oval, and he and his team have been tasked with creating the surfaces that will be used in New York for the first ever Cricket World Cup hosted by the USA. Damien has been back and forth to the States over recent months, and he's just flown back to America, where he'll now stay to supervise his pitches through the tournament. But before he jetted off, he told me about the unprecedented work that's been done in preparation.
Right now, we've built 6, so we've got 10 drop-in pitches growing in Florida, Boynton Beach.
Why Florida?
So Florida was chosen purely because of the timelines that we had. So it took quite a few months. So we're saying, when do we start talking? In late June. It was basically the start of October, right at the end of September, before we really got the green light to build trays. So we built 6 of the 10 trays. We ended up, there's 10 trays all up, 4 of them at the moment.
I was going to say, for people who don't know, just describe even what a tray is. How big is this tray? How deep? What kind of size are we talking about?
Yeah, so a drop-in pitch is obviously the size of a cricket pitch. And it varies. Here in Adelaide Oval, we've got 10 drop-in pitches that are 25 metres long and 3 metres wide, and they're full pitches. over in America, because they don't have the big pitch transporter that we have, and we had to work out the logistics of where we're going to grow them, how we're going to get them into the location. So we got 10 pitches in 20 pieces or 20 semi-trailers driving for basically 24 hours. It ends up being non-stop, almost non-stop other than their breaks, to get up there. So 4 of them are going to go in the main venue, okay, and then there's 6 practice pitches because there's 8 games in 10 days, plus probably a warm-up game. There's going to be, and a lot of teams going through York, there's going to be a fair pressure on the training facility as well. So, 2 venues, training facilities, 5 or 10 minutes away, and then you've got the main stadium there at Eisenhower Park, and with 4 pitches. So 6 of them have been built here in Adelaide, locally by a local company.
These are the trays themselves, and the trays went to the States, and then the soil and the actual pitch was grown in Florida.
Yeah, so in a modular sense, they fit in, we stack them in a module, put them in a shipping container, bring them out, and then the first week was really about bolting them all together, forming them into a steel tray. The ones that were built in America came in also. So 10 pitches on a flat base in Boynton Beach in Florida.
You've got a massively big pressure match taking place in New York when India and Pakistan play each other. So are India and Pakistan going to be playing each other on a surface that will be akin to Adelaide Oval? Is that what we can expect, or is there so many other conditions that will come into play?
You're preparing a pitch the way we know how to prepare pitches. So from my side, each curator has their own little techniques and tweaks that they do in preparing pitches. I feel the way we prepared pitches in Adelaide has held us in good stead, I suppose. And we're attempting to produce a pitch. I'll never promise what we're going to do. I can let you know what we're attempting to do. Our aim is to produce a pitch that is has consistent bounce and that the players can play their shots. So we want good pace bounce, players to play their shots. You want entertaining cricket. There are challenges there. You have to remember that the trays were built in December, so they're only going to be 5 months old. The turf went in early January. So, but what we do know is the consolidation process during that period has been exceptional. We took our time. We made sure during that process we consolidated at every layer. So every 2 inches we were consolidating that. So almost preparing a pitch as we were going, because we needed to fast track the maturity of the pitch. So we're really comfortable where they sit. The grass, like I said, the growing conditions in Florida, and the reason why you asked before why Florida, when we were building trays, New York was cold, it's wet, grass doesn't grow that time of year. We needed to find a environment where grass could grow.
What, if anything, could go wrong between now and June? I mean, I'm looking in particular at this logistical process of moving the pitches from Florida to New York, because I gather before this, you've only moved a pitch as far as a couple of kilometres across Adelaide City, and you've got to cover some 17,000 kilometres and crossing 7 states. So what challenge does that pose?
Plenty. But
and how are you going to get over those?
There are unknowns. Okay, so there are, but all we can do is try and navigate through them, try and work out what every possible logistical issue that there possibly could be. And we've done that, and Landtech understand the country, so well that they work up and down that east coast or large parts of that east coast.
Have you got to cover the pitches to protect them from the elements? And I suppose those elements are going to change drastically.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's a little bit easier that time of year, but you definitely go from the warmer, most tropical, humid type weather in Florida, and then it cools down as you get up. New York is definitely improving weather-wise, but there is a risk around shock to the turf. So the risks are really 24 hours. They got 2 truck drivers going in each truck, so they can stop, have their breaks, swap, and keep driving.
Do you go as well?
We're going to jump on a plane. We were at one stage. We were going to follow it up, but then we realised we've probably got a 12-hour day putting him in at the other end. So No, we're gonna send them on their way probably on the Sunday or the Monday. It's at 28th or 29th. Jump on a plane the next day and then meet them up in New York and start putting them in.
How do you think you will feel, Damien, at the point when that first ball is bowled and the first formal match of the World Cup is played on your pitch in a New York stadium in a World Cup?
I'm really excited, but I'm a bit anxious at the same time. Like there are still unknowns, and then anyone that knows me knows that I'll probably overanalyze. But I'm gonna enjoy the experience. I'm bringing my assistant curator Todd Heinrich along as well. So because there's two venues, so yeah, excited, looking forward to the challenge, and know that it's not a sprint. This is going to be a marathon. It's a long process.
Well, that's Damien Hoff, head curator at Adelaide Oval, and we'll hopefully catch up with him during that World Cup in New York to see how it's going. I think I said there a journey of 17,000 kilometres between Florida and New York. My geography isn't off. That was the distance the trays went from Adelaide to New York. So 2,000 kilometres, which is still a feat up that east coast to get up to New York. Charu, I mean, goodness, it's an amazing story, isn't it? But, 8 matches in 10 days for these young pitchers to last through. And Damien did mention the intentions for the pitch. Of course, India and Pakistan will play on, that they hope it'll have, consistent bounce and pace. He wants the players to be able to play their shots. Reckon that should produce a good contest?
Critical that it does, because the kind of attention that one match will have a pretty strong bearing on the entire T20 World Cup. It's a crazy responsibility for Damien and Todd, as he mentioned, his assistant and everybody else, because should that match not have an even bounce, which of course, as he mentioned, as we know, is the key to any pitch playing in a more predictable fashion, then maybe a low-scoring match or something going wrong there and just will rob the shine of the T20 World Cup, because that's what the India-Pakistan match is. So I can only understand, I'll try and understand the kind of pressure that the pitch preparation boys will have. Oh, it's a crazy important match. And in many ways, could Alice and Jim set or have a huge bearing on cricket in the US itself? Because if that goes well, it's a tight, tough, high-scoring match. I think it'll draw so much more attention of all the not just the diaspora, the Asian diaspora, but the rest of America as well, saying, oh, is that what it's all about?
They'll be drawn to
Man,
the spectacle.
that was great, or whatever. Yeah, correct.
We'll see what occurs. But I suppose the ongoing question out of all of this is what happens when the World Cup is over? Is there a legacy for cricket grounds out of this, or are they all going to be pulled down like some of those stadia were in 2012 after the London Olympics?
Yeah, well, this is a modular stadium in New York, isn't it? So a temporary one. So the stands, it will come down after the T20 World Cup matches have finished. I think there's a Grand Prix coming up quite soon afterwards. But Damien did talk about the pitches, possibly being a sort of legacy piece or used for other matches going forward. So if the pitches remain, embedded in the ground in Eisenhower Park, then they will have a, cricket playing surface there. The question will be, who curates them and looks after them, or will they be lifted out of the ground and, perhaps taken to other grounds? Can MLC use them? He did mention another Australian who works with the MLC, who's another ex-Adelaide Oval staff member, a man by the name of Dave Agnew. So there is some other cricket expertise working in the States. That's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. My thanks to Jim Maxwell and Charu Sharma, and to all of you for listening. See you next week. Bye-bye.